Good morning, guys, and we're on lesson 12 today. This is Saxon Algebra 2, lesson 12, kind of a short lesson, and it's kind of rehashing some things that we've already talked about, but we're going to go ahead and get into equation of a line again. Now, in the past lessons, what we've done is we've looked at an equation and we've drawn a line from that equation. This time, they're going to give us a line, and we're going to have to get an equation from that line. Now, that may seem a little difficult, but it's really pretty easy. And we're going to use that last slope-intercept form, that slope-intercept method that we've just recently learned. And do you remember what the basic equation of a line looked like? Just kind of maybe jog our memory a little bit. It looks like y equals mx plus b. Now I know it's just a bunch of letters, so we need to recall what each letter stands for, what each variable stands for. Of course, the y and the x, we understand, that's just our two unknowns, correlate with our y-axis and our x-axis. It's the m and the b that we need to pay special attention to. So what is that m and that b? Recall the m is the slope. And remember what we said the slope was? Well, it was the rise over the run. And there's another couple things that we need to remember about the slope. That is, the slope can be either a negative, well, let's make that positive since it's on top. It can be either a positive or a negative. Now, how do we know which is which? Well, if the line is moving from left to right and is going up, well, then it's a positive slope. If the line is moving from left to right going down, well, it's a negative slope. So just things to remember about the m. It is our slope. It's rise over the run. Now, we use that term rise over the run. It could also be the fall over the run, the rise or the fall. And this is, of course, if it's positive. This is the fall as if it's negative, going down. But the run always moves from left to right. Now, what do we mean by that? Most of the time, our m is going to be a fraction. It could be 2/3. If it's a positive 2/3 and we have a specific point, we'll go up 2 and then over 3. And that will be our next point. But what if it's a negative 2/3? Well, from the point that we're given, we'll go down 2 and then over 3. And that will be our next point. So the slope is pretty easy to follow along with. Well, let's recall a little bit about the b. What is the b? Well, the b is just what we call the y-intercept. In other words, that's where it crosses the y-axis at. Looking at our plane right here, this is the y-axis. It goes up and down. So wherever a line crosses the y-axis, that's going to be its b. Okay, so we're moving right along. I'm looking myself at page 68, 69 right now, if you want to follow right there with me. And we've talked pretty much about everything that's on 68. Okay, so we just hit over here with our equation. So I'm looking at 69, example 12.1. Example 12.1 in your book looks just like this. Now there are 3 different lines on this one coordinate system. And so we are going to get the equation for each line that's on there. Now 2 of the lines that are on there are super easy. So let's look at those lines real quick. We have A, we have B, and we have C. All right, so I want you to notice something about A. A is a line that's straight up and down. Whenever it's straight up and down or it's straight left and right, it's straight vertical or straight horizontal. Those lines are really easy to get. If we see a straight up and down line, tell me, what axis does it cross? Does it cross the y-axis or does it cross the x-axis? Well, hopefully you said x. Because it does cross the x. Now it runs parallel with the y-axis, but it crosses the x-axis right there. Okay, so if we're going to say an equation for line A, Where does it cross the x-axis at? I know it may be hard to see that. That's because of the way I drew it or wrote it, but that's a -3. You can see it in your book. But in order to get the equation for this line, we just simply say x equals -3 because it crosses the x-axis and it's straight up and down. That's pretty simple. We're going to use the same idea, if we would, or I guess it would be ideal too, when we're talking about a straight horizontal line, like B. Well, where does B cross the y-axis at? Now, it's not crossing the x, it's running parallel with the x, but it crosses the y right there. So we would say the equation is y equals something. Where does it cross that y-axis at? You can look in your book, hard to see right here, but you can see that it crosses the y-axis at -4. And so our equation for line B is y equals -4. Now we get to line C, and a little different. We understand that line C is on a slope. And so that takes us back, oh, if it's on a slope, we're going to have to use the y equals mx plus b. So what in the world do we do from there? Well, don't fret, because we only need to find two things. We need to find out what m is, and we need to find out what b is. Y and x are going to stay y and x, because that's the equation of the line. We don't know the unknowns that we're looking for. Now, our line is pretty simple, and you say, well, it's not simple. I just can't tell right off the bat what it is. Well, we're going to take it in a couple steps. The first thing I like to do is make sure you get your equation. For me, that's step one. Make sure you write out y equals mx plus b so you know what you're doing. After that, we're going to look and see where does it cross the y-axis, the y-intercept. Remember, b is our y-intercept. Intercept simply means where it's crossing that path on y. Well, let's look at our line and see where does it cross y. You can see in your book, you can see up here as well, that it crosses at 3, +3. So I would say y equals something x, we'll get the slope in just a minute, plus 3. Okay, so we've got this number here. We're good to go there. Now all we have to do is decide two more things. And the two things is, what is the number that goes with m, and what's the sign that goes with m? Now look at the slope here. Is it going up or is it going down? Well, we can obviously tell from left to right it's going up. And so that means our sign here is going to be positive. Now you don't have to write that positive in right there, because whole numbers, if they're unsigned, they're understood. I say whole, any number unsigned is understood to be positive, but I'm writing it in there just to make a point. And so it is going up, it's positive. And now we got to decide, what's that slope going to be? Well, we know there's a point right here. So now what I want you to do is follow this line up and up and up until it crosses in an exact corner, again, of one of those little boxes. And you're going to see that it falls on 3 and 4. Okay, that's where it crosses that corner again. So we start at where it crosses the y, follow our slope up, and see where it crosses in an exact corner of our plane there. Okay, and so what does that mean for us? Well, remember the slope is rise over run. And so how many do we have to go up? We'll have to go up 1 and over 1, 2, 3. And so our slope is 1 over 3. So our equation of our line is y equals 1/3 x plus 3. Now I know this is a simple lesson seemingly, so we don't want to just toss it off and think, oh, well, I can do any of those. You're going to see in your practice things are just a little different. In the practice, you are going to see a horizontal line. Okay, remember horizontal line, what axis does it cross? It crosses the the y-axis, and so that horizontal line is going to have a formula of y equals something. And then you're also going to see another line on that graph that's going to be, disregard all this right now, but it's going to look something like this, and it's not going to cross exactly there, but it's going to be going down. So whenever we find our y equals mx plus b, don't forget the m, since it's going down, that slope is going to be a negative. slope. And then from there, what do I do? We'll start with finding where it crosses y at, finding your b, that y-intercept, and then go from there. And then see, do I go from here, how many lines do I go down, and how many lines do I go over until I hit another corner. And so that will give you your slope. I hope that explains lesson 12, Algebra 2 for Saxon well. As always, if you have any questions, let me know and we'll be glad to answer those for you.